little bit of history of Fort McAllister. Fort McAllister was built on the Oasis River, 4.5 miles east of here. That's where the state park is, to guard the back door to Savannah. During the 1862 to 1863, it repelled 7 attacks by armored vehicles. Some mounted 15-inch guns. On December 13th, 1864, its small garrison of 230 Georgians were overwhelmed by Hazen's Division 15 Corps, which had marched via this road. This fall opened up the Oasis River to United States vessels, which, loaded with supplies for General Sherman's army, had been lying in the Tybee Roads and Port Royal Sound. A wharf and depot were built at Kings Bridge, present-day US 17, from which these supplies were distributed to the invading forces.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Zephyr Travels. I'm Diane.
And I'm Randy. And in this week's video, this is a Campground 411, and we're coming to you from Fort McAllister State Park. And this is just south of Savannah, Georgia. And if you see us going like this, it's because everybody's friendly here and they wave a lot.
No, really, because there's tons of bugs in this park, or at least where we are, this particular site.
Yeah, so if you see us kind of squirm around or wave off flies, that's exactly what we're doing. They have biting flies, they have gnats, ticks, everything here. So it's been an annoyance since we've been here.
Right. So for us, you can't really sit outside. You have to make sure that you bring some type of repellent, both for yourself and if you do have dogs or other animals, you want to make sure that they're very well protected. And yeah, so that you can spend some time outside. It is an extremely wooded park.
Yes.
You know, tons of trees, and yes, and so.
But the biting flies are the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got some flea and tick spray for the dogs, even though they do have advantage flea and tick medicine, but we really wanted to spray them so that they didn't bring the ticks into the trailer, because I did end up having a tick on me while I was here, so it will happen.
Right. And fortunately for them, you know, they have such thick fur that if one does get on their coat, more than likely, unless it's a spot that has not a lot of fur, that they won't get bit. You know, mostly for them it would be like their, you know, stomach area.
Yeah.
We were at one park some time ago, and actually Monty had one that was right by his eye, one of his eyes.
Yeah, we saw it and we could pick it right off.
We could pick it right off.
Yeah.
But like I said, and if you know our dogs, you know how much fur they have.
Right, right. Well, back to the park.
Right.
This is actually the second time we've stayed here, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm making this video is to remind me that we've been here before, because I totally forgotten that when I made the reservations that we had been to this park about 8 years ago when we first got the Airstream, and before we were really into making videos of places we stay. And so we didn't make a video of this park, and I didn't remember it until about the time we were coming here, and I go, we've been here before.
We've been here before.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't think that stay was the greatest either. Two things that stick out to me of that stay. It's where our awning broke. We are brand new to traveling with our Airstream, and we left the awning out in a rainstorm. We were sitting inside, and it filled with water to the point that it broke the bar on the awning pole, and the awning just folded up and crashed, and we were kind of stuck inside. We had to kind of work our way out because the awning was laying against the side of the trailer, and that happened. We also did go kayaking here, or I went kayaking. There's I think they call it a creek, but it's a river that you can kayak in.
And there is a boat launch as well.
Yeah, there's a boat launch, and they do rent canoes here, though they don't seem to be renting them right now. And
right.
I'm being eaten
It's
again.
a little early in the sea. Excuse us for, you know, but yeah.
Excuse us if we see us waving, because we're just knocking
really,
the bugs off of us. We're trying to get
they
this.
They must be like, they're like biting flies. That's all I can think of.
They are biting flies.
They're very tiny.
Those are the gnats.
Well, yeah, but whatever they are, they bite.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a lot to do in this park. That's what we've noticed. There is a museum, and there are some Civil War artifacts up at the main part of the park where you come in at the office. That's like a mile from here. So it's not an easy walk. You could ride your bike or you drive up there and see that. But there's not a lot. The museum looks to be pretty small, and the artifacts are in like a picnic pavilion. It's, I don't know, they're from Civil War ships or something like that. We didn't really check them out.
There is a picnic area. There is a small playground area if you do have children.
Again, that's up a mile from the campground.
Right.
There's a playground here at the state park, but it's up by the office, which is probably almost a mile from the campground. So it's really not that obtainable for young children to play on while you're camping here. But you can pack them into your car and drive them here if you want. And for adults, they have exercise equipment outdoors. We've seen these in other parks. I've never seen anybody use them.
No, we even have it at the park at home.
Yeah, and we don't even use it.
I've never seen anybody use them.
No. Yeah, there's a causeway that comes across Salt Marsh, and that, you know, there's really not a lot to do on that. Fishing, I think, is a big thing here. So if you're into fishing, this would be a good place to come. You know, you can bring a boat, a power boat. There's power boats. There's a dock here that you can dock on.
There are trails that you can go on, and like we said, with all these bugs, we didn't.
We didn't do that.
We have seen deer, which we have heard are very friendly.
Yeah, we had the deer right here in our campsite. One morning, walking around, and they've been around a few times. We've seen possum. I've seen a raccoon. So there are wildlife here, besides the flies.
Right, but the deer, I understand that, you know, people do feed them and they will come up to you.
Yeah, they're very used to people.
They're very used to people, so you don't have to be afraid of them.
Yeah, one thing we should mention, that this is actually an island. And so there's, I don't know how big it is. It's about the size of the campground, and there's a hiking area here. So you're really kind of here. You know, there's really not a lot of area to go explore. I think the hiking trails are fairly small.
But you're not too far from downtown Savannah. We haven't ventured there maybe the next couple of days. If you do like this, you know, if this woodsy sort of park, you know, interests you, it'd be a great place to stay. You can bring your bikes and ride your bikes. And like we say, they do have canoes that you can rent and a boat launch. So you could bring your boat or your canoe. Not sure about, you know, paddle boards. But,
I'm not quite sure about the water is kind of murky. I wouldn't want. I mean, I think I look at paddleboarding as something I'm going to get wet. I'm going to be in the water. Kayaking, I'm not going to be as much, and so I really don't want to be in that water.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, you know, suggest paddleboarding here. There might be other places you could go, but there's other places you could stay too.
Right.
There is a restaurant, a dockside restaurant, just outside the park, and we've eaten there in the past. And from what I can remember, I think it was pretty good. A lot of seafood.
Right.
But we're not going there this trip.
No, and we'll be leaving tomorrow and heading to a resort.
Yeah, that's probably our next video. It's called Creekside Resort, and it's a higher end campground, and we've got 4 nights there, and we'll definitely show you what goes with that campground.
Right. I think we were spoiled by our resort in Florida. That, you know, to come to this. Although you know, it suits our purpose. We are on our way back north, so you know, we needed someplace to stay for a few nights, and you just never know how the weather's going to be.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, other than the bugs.
Yeah.
The weather has been
I don't remember the
pleasant.
bugs so much the last time we were here.
Well, that's been quite a number of years ago. So,
unfortunately, to me, I think the disappointment here is that there's just not a lot to do.
Right.
And
right.
You know, I think my sister-in-law calls these campgrounds drinking campgrounds because that's about all you can do when you go there. You know, there's nothing else to do but drink, and we're not drinkers, so that doesn't interest us.
Right.
You know, but the campground's been reasonably full. They've got some nicer campsites than what we're on.
Right.
We are water and electric, but they do have some full hookup sites that are gravel. Ours is not gravel; it's just grass and dirt.
And they look quite a bit nicer, and they are at when you first come into the park. So
yeah, there's a limited number of them. yeah, I think maybe 10 or
Oh,
10 to 12 or something like that.
we haven't seen them, but we saw a sign for cottages. So,
Yeah.
you know, there may be a few cottages here.
They're not in this area.
No.
No, it's a different area. So what would you rate the campground?
I would give it a 2 to a 2.5. I think we'll remember how this was. So unless we're really in a pinch, I'm not sure that we would stay here again. But maybe for an overnight, if that's what's needed.
I think there's plenty. I'd say also would give it a 2.5. I think there are plenty of other options in the Savannah area. Tybee Island is another place we've stayed that we've never done a video on. That definitely would cost a little bit more, but it's a more touristy
and I
beach
think,
area.
Yeah, you're at the beach,
Yeah.
so that would be a nicer area.
I know the campground we're going to is in the Savannah area again. I think it's just a little bit more to the west off of I-95.
Right.
And so that would be, I think that would be another option here. And there's other campgrounds along I-95 that you could stay at. So this isn't your only option for Savannah. I think if you're looking for something that's reasonably inexpensive and you want to travel from here to someplace else, this is just an overnight, it's probably not a bad option. I believe it was under $40 per night to stay here. Probably a little bit more if you get the full hookups. Depending how long you stay, whether you need those or not, I don't know.
Right.
And if you have a boat or a kayak and you're into fishing, this would be a definite option.
Right.
Well, we got to wrap this up.
We have to wrap this up because we're getting eaten by all these bugs, and we did spray ourselves, so they're like resistant to all this stuff.
Yeah, and bring your bug spray, whatever you have. I'm a little hesitant about using a lot of off because the dogs lick our skin, and I don't want them to be licking the off.
Right.
But yeah, that's an option. So, ouch. Let's wrap this up. So if you like this video,
please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already, we would appreciate you subscribing to our channel, Zephyr Travels.
Yeah, hit that bell for notifications. We post videos on a weekly basis. Love to have you travel along with us in our adventures. And until the next time, folks.
We'll see you from the resort.
Yeah, we'll see you from the resort. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Oh my goodness.